Night comes slowly, as if the world itself is being lulled into a spell. The edges of all things soften, colors fade, and a hush falls, a silence heavy with waiting, with secrets unspoken. In this silence, we gather, as countless generations have gathered before, around the small warmth of fire or lamp, preparing for the descent into sleep. We lie down and close our eyes, yet we do not fall into nothingness. Instead, we cross a threshold. We surrender our waking selves and drift, sometimes gently, sometimes with a sudden drop, into the shadowed land of dreams. This is a place older than memory, where our ancestors once walked with a mixture of hope and fear, their hearts pounding in the darkness. For in dreams, the world comes undone. The dead return to speak our names. The future flickers before us in riddles. Familiar faces twist into masks. Landscapes melt and reform, and the laws of nature are rewritten with every breath. We float, we fall, we fight, we love, we witness wonders and horrors, all in a single night, all behind closed eyes. To the ancients, these nightly journeys were not accidents of the mind, nor distractions from the world. They were messages. Sometimes they were gifts. Often they were warnings. Always they were taken seriously. For in dreams, the soul is exposed. It is seen by powers beyond the waking world, touched by hands both kind and cruel. The ancients feared dreams because they understood their power. They knew that in the dream, the boundaries between worlds, between the living and the dead, the mortal and the divine, could be crossed with a single step. They believed that dreams were doors. Some led to paradise, others to madness. Some were invitations, others traps. The dream was a journey from which one might never return unchanged. And so they watched the night with care. They built rituals to protect the sleeping and to honor the dream. They wrote down their visions on tablets and papyrus in the hope that meaning could be captured and misfortune averted. They sought out wise women, priests, and magicians, those who could read the signs and decipher the language of the gods. For in the ancient world, to dream was to stand at the crossroads of fate itself. Tonight, we walk the old paths. We enter the dream as our ancestors did, not as idle travelers, but as seekers of meaning. We will descend into the darkness of Mesopotamia, where dreams shaped the destiny of kings. We will enter the sacred chambers of Egypt, where sleep became a rite and healing came on the wings of gods. We will wander through Greece, where the dream was both a mystery of the soul and a tool of medicine. And we will kneel in the dim chapels of early Christianity, where dreams became the battleground of temptation and grace. The journey is long, and the night is deep, but within this darkness we may yet find the truth our ancestors sought, the truth that dreams, in their strangeness and beauty, are the heartbeat of the human soul. Close your eyes, listen to the silence. The dream is waiting. Follow the darkness east, to the cradle of civilization, where two rivers wind through a land of dust, reeds, and timeless sky. In Mesopotamia, beneath the ever-watchful gaze of stars, the world took shape not only in the hands of mortals, but in the secret councils of gods. Here, dreams were the heartbeat of destiny, the very breath of prophecy. The night in ancient Mesopotamia was alive with whispers. Shepherds, kings, and children alike would slip from waking into dreams, believing themselves watched by unseen eyes. For the Mesopotamians, dreams were not private little fancies, but public events, messages dispatched from the realm of the divine, sometimes to individuals, sometimes to the whole city, even to the fate of empires. In the palace, a king might be haunted by a vision, a river of blood, a lion devouring the sun, a ladder stretching from earth to heaven. He would rise before dawn, troubled, his brow slick with sweat, and send for the priests. These men, guardians of sacred knowledge, would gather in dim-lit rooms lined with clay tablets. They would listen, sifting the king's words for hidden meaning, consulting their libraries of omens. For in Mesopotamia, dreams were catalogued with meticulous care. If a man dreams of drinking wine, joy is near. If a woman dreams of fire, war awaits. There were thousands of such signs, each one a thread in the vast tapestry of fate. Dreams could shape the fate of nations. A king who dreamed of victory would march to war, convinced of divine favor. If a dream foretold disaster, sacrifices would be made, temples cleansed, rituals performed to avert the wrath of the gods. Sometimes, a ruler would claim a dream as justification for his actions. The goddess Inanna has called me to rule, he would declare, and the people, hungry for certainty, would bow to the authority of vision. Yet dreams were not the exclusive property of kings. The common people, too, brought their dreams to the temple. A farmer troubled by nightmares might seek out the Baru, the dream interpreter, and offer a pittance for guidance. A mother whose child was ill might recount a vision of a serpent or a flooded field, desperate to understand what the gods demanded. The answers came in ritual, in sacrifice, in carefully spoken words and amulets pressed into trembling hands. But dreams were also dangerous. They could bring madness as easily as wisdom. To dream of the dead was to risk haunting. To dream of falling, or of darkness, could mean the soul had wandered too far and returned marked by the underworld. Nightmares were feared as attacks by demons, restless spirits, or angry gods. To protect the sleeper, charms of lapis lazuli and carnelian were hung above beds. Water was sprinkled at thresholds, prayers chanted softly at dusk. The home became a fortress against the spirits that prowled the edge of sleep. Yet for all their fear, the people of Mesopotamia revered the dream. It was the space where gods and mortals conversed, where the boundaries of fate could be glimpsed, if only for a moment. The dream interpreter was a respected figure, part priest and part magician, holding the fragile balance between chaos and order. In their dreams, the Mesopotamians saw the world's true shape, a place of hidden purpose, where every vision might tip the scales of history. To them, dreaming was not escape, but a sacred responsibility, a way of listening to the deep currents of the universe. Each night, as darkness fell and the breath of the gods stirred through their sleep, the dreamers of Mesopotamia stood at the very center of fate, their souls suspended between terror and hope. The Nile glides through Egypt as if it were the slow pulse of the earth itself, feeding a kingdom of gold and shadow where time moves in circles and the dead are never far. Here, dreams are not simply messages, not mere omens to be deciphered by anxious priests. In Egypt, dreams are woven into the very fabric of ritual, healing, and the eternal covenant between mortals and gods. Night in Egypt is never silent. It is filled with the lowing of cattle, the whisper of reeds, the distant cry of herons, and the rustle of palm fronds. In this living darkness, people sought the favor of the divine through ritual sleep, incubation, they called it, a sacred surrender, the mysteries of the night. The sick, the sorrowful, the desperate would travel from dusty villages and crowded markets to the great temples of the gods. They would come barefoot, bearing offerings of bread, honey, and flowers, their hearts heavy with longing. At the temple gates, priests in linen robes would purify the seekers, washing their bodies, anointing their foreheads with oil, murmuring prayers in voices as soft as the river's flow. Within the sacred enclosure, the air was thick with incense and possibility. The dreamer was led to a chamber deep within the temple, where the light of torches flickered on walls adorned with hieroglyphs, stories of gods who once walked the earth, of pharaohs who conversed with the sun. Here, the dreamer would lie down upon a simple bed or a mat of woven reeds. All around, the silence pressed close, broken only by the distant chanting of priests, invoking Imhotep the healer or Serapis the Lord of Mysteries. The dream was awaited as a visitation, an act of grace. In the depths of sleep, the gods might appear. Imhotep, gentle and wise, his touch cool as water on fevered flesh. Or Isis, whose wings enfolded the suffering and compassion, whispering secret words of healing. Sometimes the dream would be clear, a vision of the god, a direct command or promise. Sometimes it was tangled in symbols, a crocodile in the river, a field blooming out of season, a serpent coiled around the heart. Upon waking, the dreamer would recount their vision to the priests, voices trembling with awe and hope. The interpretation was a sacred art. If the dream was auspicious, the proper sacrifice was made, a dove, a loaf of bread, a cup of wine poured out in gratitude. If the dream was troubling, the priests would perform rites of cleansing, pressing protective amulets into the dreamer's palms, drawing the eye of Horus on their skin. These sacred dreams shaped not only individual lives, but the life of the nation. Pharaohs, too, sought guidance in dreams. Their visions could dictate the building of temples, the waging of wars, the very laws of the land. Scribes recorded the dreams of kings and commoners alike, inscribing them upon ostraca and papyrus, preserving them for centuries. "I saw the falcon soar above the city, he called me by name," reads one ancient account. "I walked with my mother along the banks of the Nile, and she gave me a flower that sang the name of Osiris." Each dream a message, each vision a step closer to the hidden heart of the world. But not all dreams brought comfort. There were nightmares, visions of chaos, of the Nile turned to blood, of jackals gnawing the bones of the dead. Such dreams were feared as warnings, signs of imbalance or divine anger. The Egyptians guarded against these terrors with spells and amulets, invoking the protective gaze of Bastet or the wisdom of Thoth to shield their sleep. They painted the eye of Horus on coffins and doorways, a watchful presence against the shadows that crept at the edges of night. For the Egyptians, the dream was a sacred place, a chamber within the temple of the self, where mortals and gods could meet. To sleep was to submit oneself to the currents of the divine, to allow the soul to wander the hidden paths of eternity. In this darkness, healing flowed, destinies shifted, and the soul returned, carrying with it a fragment of the light that glimmers beyond the veil. Thus, in the land of Egypt, the dream was not only a message, but a miracle, a nightly enactment of the world's most ancient mysteries, played out in the silence and the shadows, beneath the eternal gaze of the stars. The road west leads to a land of olive groves and rocky shores, where gods speak in riddles and mortals strive for wisdom amid the ruins of stone. In ancient Greece, the dream is no longer only a message from above, but a mystery of the soul itself, a place where gods and men, fate and desire, suffering and hope are all entangled. The Greeks lived in a world alive with presence. Every grove, every spring, every storm was inhabited by a spirit, a god, or a memory. Their nights were watched over by Morpheus, shaper of dreams, Hypnos, gentle god of sleep, and the Oneiroi, a host of dark-winged dream-bringers. Yet for all their reverence, the Greeks were restless questioners. They looked at the dream and saw not only a message, but a mirror, a reflection of the self in all its joys and torments. For those who suffered in body or spirit, the temples of Asclepios became sanctuaries of hope. The sick and the grieving made long pilgrimages to Epidaurus, Kos, and other sacred sites, their hearts heavy with longing for relief. Approaching the temple, they purified themselves in sacred springs, offered gifts of honey, wine, or votive figurines, and passed through the sleeping gardens and marble porticos, where the air was alive with the scent of laurel and the low song of priests. In the abaton, the holy sleeping chamber, the patient lay down on a simple pallet, shrouded in silence and expectation. The night was deep, the stars shining through open roofs. The supplicant prayed to Asclepios, the healer whose staff was entwined with the serpent of renewal. Then, in the darkness, they surrendered to sleep. It was believed that Asclepios might enter their dreams, sometimes as a radiant man, sometimes as a serpent gliding across the floor, sometimes as a voice whispering secret remedies. The dream could bring healing, not only through prophecy, but through ritual reenactment. Visions of being touched by the god, of drinking clear water, of walking unharmed through fire. Upon waking, the dreamer would recount the vision to the temple priests, who interpreted its meaning and prescribed acts to complete the healing: a prayer, a sacrifice, a journey, a change in life. Thousands of these dreams were recorded and left as offerings in the temple precincts, testimonies of miraculous cures, of wounds healed, of burdens lifted. Asclepios came to me in the night, reads one inscription, and placed his hand upon my eyes. When I awoke, I saw the sun for the first time in years. But the Greeks did not only seek healing in dreams. They sought understanding. Philosophers began to wonder aloud. What is the nature of the dream? Heraclitus mused that in sleep, each soul returns to its own world, cut off from the common world of day. Aristotle argued that dreams were the shadows of waking life, images woven from memory and desire. For the first time, the dream became a question not only for priests, but for thinkers, poets, and physicians. The oracle at Delphi, where Apollo spoke in riddles, was itself a living dream, visions uttered in trance, their meanings hidden in metaphor. Yet the dream remained haunted. Nightmares were feared as omens, or as visitations from restless dead or vengeful gods. The Greeks prayed for protection against false dreams, and for the wisdom to know when a vision was true. The boundary between prophecy and madness was thin, the line between healing and harm easily crossed. For the Greeks, to dream was to enter a realm where the soul wrestled with what it could not name. The dream was a labyrinth, a place of transformation. It was a theater where gods played out their dramas in the heart of the sleeper, and where mortals glimpsed the secret shape of their own longing. To dream well was to be healed, not only in body, but in spirit. To dream badly was to be lost in the maze of one's own fears. And so the Greeks, ever searching, left us their dreams, etched in stone, sung in verse, whispered in the shade of olive trees. Their night journeys remind us that to dream is to seek not only the voice of the divine, but the hidden face of the self. As empires crumbled and old gods faded into stone and memory, the world shuddered and turned toward a new dawn. In the shadowed dawn of Christianity, dreams did not vanish. Instead, they became something both more perilous and more holy, a battleground for the soul, a channel for temptation, and a beacon of grace. The early Christians inherited a world heavy with visions. Their scriptures told of Joseph, who interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, and Daniel, who saw the writing on the wall. They told of the Magi, warned in a dream to return home by another road, and of Joseph, the carpenter, who was told by an angel in sleep to flee with Mary and the infant Jesus into Egypt. In these sacred stories, dreams were the voice of God, a lamp to guide the faithful through the night's confusion. Yet as Christianity spread through the deserts, cities, and forests of the Old World, it became clear that dreams could also be snares. The Desert Fathers, ascetics who fled the world for barren caves and endless silence, spoke often of dreams as tests sent by both heaven and hell. In the solitude of night, when the boundaries between flesh and spirit grew thin, the Christian soul became a battlefield. The mind, emptied of daily noise, became a stage for temptation and spiritual warfare. The saints and monks who wrote of their struggles described dreams that dazzled and tormented. Some visions brought comfort: a radiant Christ, the Virgin Mary, a choir of angels. Others were cunning deceptions, demons disguised as holy ones, voices that whispered pride, lust, or despair. Saint Anthony, beset in the desert, warned his followers, "Some dreams are sent to guide, but many are sent to destroy. Watch and pray." Early theologians urged vigilance. The Christian was told to test the spirits, to weigh every dream against scripture and doctrine, to seek guidance from elders and confessors. Manuals of confession asked, "Have you heeded dreams? Have you trusted what you should have spurned?" The church taught that dreams could be used by the devil to sow doubt, seduce the heart, or lead the soul astray. Night became a time for prayer, psalms murmured against the darkness, the sign of the cross traced silently over the sleeping brow. Yet the dream did not lose its place as a vessel of the sacred. Mystics and saints continued to receive visions, some of overwhelming beauty, others of terrifying clarity. Hildegard of Bingen dreamed of wheels of fire and rivers of living light, and her visions became hymns and paintings. Perpetua, awaiting martyrdom in a Roman prison, dreamed of a golden ladder guarded by a dragon. Her vision was read as a sign of her coming trial and victory. Joan of Arc, centuries later, would hear voices in her dreams, urging her to save France. For ordinary believers, dreams remained ambiguous. They might be glimpses of grace, but they might also be trials to be endured with humility. Most learned to treat their dreams with caution, neither trusting nor despising them, but bringing them to prayer and discernment. They were taught that the night belonged to God, but that evil too prowled in darkness, seeking the soul unguarded. In early Christianity, the dream became a crucible. It could purify, revealing hidden sin or hidden strength. It could deceive, leading the soul into shadow. The night was not a time for careless wandering, but for vigilance, for the invocation of saints and angels, for the practice of humility and discernment. Yet always, even in the midst of fear, there was hope. The faithful believed that in the silence of sleep, God could still speak, still guide, still comfort, still call the soul to holiness. The ancient awe did not die. The night, though fraught with spiritual danger, was not forsaken. It remained, as it had always been, a place of mystery, where the soul wrestled with darkness and searched for the light that would lead it home. And so, the Christian dreamer entered the night, armed with prayer, humility, and hope, knowing that the dream might be a test, a temptation, or a blessing, but always a journey worth taking. The journey through the ancient night draws to its quiet close. The fires of Babylon, the incense of Thebes, the marble shadows of Greece, the candle-lit cells of Christian hermits, all dim now, their voices softened by time. Yet the world they reveal is not dead, but sleeping, not vanished, but waiting behind the hush of our own nightly descent into dreams. What did the ancients truly see in dreams? They saw chaos and cosmos, fate and freedom, the hand of gods and the shadow of devils. They saw the soul laid bare, the secrets of the heart exposed, and the future trembling just beyond reach. To them, dreams were not accidents, nor mere echoes of the day. They were encounters, moments when the veils parted, when the world's hidden order could be glimpsed, or its deepest fears made flesh. In Mesopotamia, the dream was a ledger of omens, a script for the fate of empires. To dream was to become an actor in a cosmic drama, to receive messages that could lift or doom a kingdom. The clay tablets remember, every dream was a question asked of the universe, every interpretation a wager with destiny. In Egypt, the dream was a temple within the night. It was healing, ritual, the soul's touch with the divine. The gods came softly, in visions scented with myrrh and promise, offering not just answers but transformation. The dreamer entered the sanctum of self and returned changed, bearing the mark of the sacred. In Greece, the dream was both a riddle and a remedy. The gods spoke, yes, but so did the soul. The dream became a drama where the psyche played with its own shadows, seeking wisdom, healing, and understanding. It was both prophecy and introspection, a crossing of the visible and the hidden, the mortal and the eternal. In early Christianity, the dream became a crucible, a place of testing, where the soul's allegiances were revealed, and temptation and grace wrestled in the dark. The faithful did not abandon dreams but guarded them. They prayed for discernment, for the strength to resist deception, for the humility to receive true vision. And what of us, who inherit these traditions? The world is changed, but the dream endures. Still, we lie down in the darkness, our hearts uncertain, our minds restless. Still, we slip into the silent theater where all things are possible and nothing is safe. Science may name the patterns of our sleep, may map the electrical storms that flicker in the brain, but it cannot quite dispel the old magic. The dream remains a place where symbols gather, where meaning is born in riddles, where the soul meets itself and the world beyond. Perhaps that is the oldest truth, that to dream is to be human. To dream is to remember that we are not only creatures of daylight and reason, but of night and wonder. We carry within us the voices of our ancestors, who watched the darkness with awe and trembling. We carry their questions, their fears, their hope that the dream might reveal what waking life cannot. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, linger for a moment at the threshold. Remember the kings and priests, the pilgrims and poets, the saints and sinners who have walked these shadowed roads before you. Listen for the echo of their prayers, the murmur of their longing. The dream is not just a story told by the mind, it is a ritual, a madness, a gift, a warning. It is the place where the self is tested and remade. It is the oldest mystery, and it is waiting for you. Close your eyes. Surrender. The darkness is not empty. It is full of voices. Let them speak.